Welcome to another wonderful Susannah Calloway audiobook. We are excited to have you with us. Before we begin the story, please like and subscribe to our channel and share it with friends. This allows us to continue adding free clean Western romance audiobooks for you to enjoy. The following title is copyrighted by Susannah Calloway, Western romance author. Now, find a comfortable spot, relax, and enjoy the story. Falsely Accused Bride. Chapter 1. Sally Richards yawned behind her gloved hand and hurried along Waverly Place. She reached the red brick townhouse with seconds to spare and sped down the short flight of steps to the servants' entrance. She walked into the kitchen, pulling her gloves off as she did so. "So, ye've slept in again. Mind, I won't be making up excuses for ye forever, girl," Mrs. Harrington, the cook, was quick to inform her. "I know, Mrs. Harrington, I know. I'm sorry. It's just that with my Saturday job at the cigar shop I barely have time to help my mother and Grace around the house in the mornings. The girl Mr. Frost hired to help my mother is all but useless. I try to do as much as I can on Sunday, but then by Monday, I'm sorry, but I'm tuckered out. Why do ye have another job, pet? What about your sister? Don't ye have some big strapping brothers to help with the bills and such? And the missus pays you a good wage. She's a generous one, Mrs. May is. My brother Jimmy is doing all he can to help my mother, too. But his wife has another little one on the way. He has his own family to worry about." And Tom left. He just up and left. We did get a letter from him. He's gone to work in the mines around Scranton. He don't plan to come back and hasn't sent any money home. So, until that molasses in January Mr. Frost finally asks Mama to marry him, Grace and I have to work as much as we can. I'll be leaving the house when my mother marries, and I'll need money for a room." "But why? Your own mother would never put ye out of the house, pet." Sally laughed. She opened the closet door and hung up her short jacket and crocheted reticule in the tiny room next to the pantry. "No, she wouldn't, but it's her time now," Sally continued as she removed the pin from her hat and placed the pert piece on the closet shelf. "My mother deserves her happiness. Mr. Frost, in spite of his hemming and hawing about everything, is a good man. He'll take care of her. I don't want to interfere with that. My mother's life hasn't been the easiest. Besides, Grace will be getting married, too. John Crane has proposed to her. I have no desire to be the old maid at home with my mother and her new husband. Are ye hiding money under your mattress?" The housekeeper winked. Sally stilled and tilted her head. "Yes, I suppose I do have a little something under the mattress, Mrs. Harrington. I've been saving but, in the meantime, I'm still working as much as I can." "Sally?" Mrs. Burns, the housekeeper, and direct superior to the two women seemed to slide into the warm, cozy kitchen like a snake along a hot stone wall. Mrs. Harrington and Sally both curtsied, and when they straightened, the housekeeper was eyeing Sally. The girl felt as if a punch had landed in her stomach. "Why does she look at me like that?" "That will be all, Mrs. Harrington. Sally, please see me in my office." Mrs. Burns stepped aside. She gestured toward the corridor that connected the short space between the pantry and the housekeeper's office to the kitchen. Sally blanched. "But what of the children? I must ready them for their breakfast and then their walk." Mrs. Burns raised her eyebrows. "Is that so, Sally? Please remind yourself that I decide what you must and must not do here. Is that clear?" Mrs. Harrington shrank to the back of the kitchen by the big cast-iron cook stove. "Yes, ma'am." Sally knew better than to continue with her questions, but the punched sensation in her gut was intensifying. Why is Mrs. Burns so serious this morning? Nellie will engage the children in their morning routine today. "Come along." Mrs. Burns walked out into the corridor. "Yes, ma'am." Sally followed after her. The housekeeper reached into her apron pocket and extracted a ring of keys. She unlocked the door to her little office and stepped inside. She pointed to a small upholstered chair next to the desk. "Have a seat, Sally." Mrs. Burns turned the wooden chair in front of her desk to face the room and sat. "What's wrong, Mrs. Burns? You must tell me." "Sally, I'm surprised at you. Surely, you're not going to play dumb, are you? Please don't, it's insulting. And embarrassing. Although, I must say, you do have the nerve to show up here this morning." "The nerve? What are you referring to?" Sally was growing worried, but she was also becoming vexed. Was she being blamed for something she hadn't done? But what had happened? Sally racked her brain. Last week had been like every other week. Friday had been like any other day. "Tell me what happened on Friday evening, Sally." Still racking her brain, Sally made an effort to clear her thoughts. "What happened?" "Nothing, Mrs. Burns. Nothing at all happened." "Are the children well? Did one of them take sick? Please tell me what this is about. You expect me to believe that you didn't do anything out of the ordinary while you were in Mrs. May's bedroom? You didn't take something, perhaps? Maybe you slipped something into your pocket by accident?" "What? Certainly, you're not asking me if I took something from Mrs. May's bedroom? A personal item of Mrs. May's? Never. I wouldn't think of it." "Then tell me what happened." Mrs. Burns folded her hands in her lap and waited for Sally to respond. Sally felt as if she would be sick. Unconsciously, her hand went to her stomach. "Let's see. Well, on Friday, the children played while I mended little Victoria's purple dress." She could feel her heart accelerating. At the same time, she felt her breath begin to come in short gasps. There was clearly something very wrong and she could not, for the life of her, figure out what could be missing. But somehow, it was directly related to her. "Let me help you, Sally. Begin with relating what transpired after supper. You took the children to their mother's bedroom last Friday evening, did you not?" "I did. Mrs. May said they could play there on the white fur rug. When she came in to dress for dinner with Mr. May, we went to the nursery. Before leaving for the restaurant, Mrs. May came to the nursery to say goodnight to the little ones. When they were all tucked in, I had a cup of tea, here in the kitchen. Then I checked on the children before I went home at 8 o'clock. Sally could tell that Mrs. Burns was stirring these facts around in her mind. The woman sat silent. What else does she want to know? What is it? Mrs. Burns said nothing for what seemed an interminable moment. Then she sighed, "Sally, please don't make this any more difficult than it has to be. I've always liked you. That's why this is so uncomfortable. And difficult. What is difficult and uncomfortable? Surely, you're going to give me more in the way of explanation. What's going on? I must know." As she spoke, Sally heard a carriage pull up to the house. She heard the sound of heavy boots on the stairs right before the kitchen door burst open. She jumped and let out a little screech as she and Mrs. Burns stood up. 2 police officers filled up the office doorway, and one of them bellowed, "Sally Richards?" "Yes?" "Why are the police here and asking for me?" Something was not just wrong. Something was very, very wrong. And she was at the center of it. "Please come with us, Miss Richards." "What do you mean, come with you?" "I'll do nothing of the sort." "What is this about?" The officer grunted and made eye contact with Mrs. Burns. "Elmira, did you not tell the chit what's going on?" "I didn't have the chance, Sergeant Boyle. She just arrived to work some 5 minutes ago." "Ah, and she's a latecomer to boot," the sergeant nodded conspiratorially to the other policeman. "Mrs. Burns, please tell me what's missing." Sally was frightened, and her voice shook. Mrs. Burns sighed once more. "Sally, after you had the children in Mrs. May's room the other night, Mrs. May found that her sapphire engagement ring was missing. We searched the house for it but to no avail. Can you explain?" But you know how Mrs. May is." Sally lowered her voice to a whisper. "She often misplaces her rings and her earrings." "No, I didn't know that, Sally. I don't think you should say anything more unless you're asked." Just answer their questions, Mrs. Burns said back, looking more than a little worried. The police sergeant turned back to them after conferring with his man. What's going on there? Elmira, what are you two whispering about? I'm just letting Miss Sally know her duties for today are covered. That's all. She took a step back. You don't think I stole Mrs. May's ring, do you? The officer and Sergeant Boyle were looking at Sally expectantly. Mrs. Burns was frowning and running her hand down her starched apron. But you cannot possibly think I would do such a thing as steal something, Sally lamented. When she got no response, she swallowed hard and lifted her chin. I am an honest girl. The officer stepped forward and took Sally by the arm. Sally Richards, you are under arrest for theft. Please come this way. But, I haven't stolen anything. She turned to the housekeeper. Mrs. Burns, surely you don't believe this. Please tell Sergeant Boyle I didn't take anything. The ring was located early this morning, Sally, Mrs. Burns informed her, looking trapped. In a pawn shop downtown, very near to your cigar shop. The man said a young woman brought it in. But that means nothing. There are many young women in this city. Why, I've never heard of anything so ridiculous. Who else was in Mrs. May's rooms on Friday? No one, Sally. And although there are many young women in this city, only 7 of them work here in this house. It means something that the ring was located at the pawn shop downtown, Miss Richards. The proximity to your other job works against you. Now, come with me, please. The sergeant nodded to the officer holding Sally's arm. Come along, Miss Richards. Sally looked from the policeman to Mrs. Burns and then back to the sergeant. This cannot be happening. I didn't take Mrs. May's ring, I tell you. There's been a mistake. I swear to you. This is a mistake. Joe, get this chit into the wagon. Come on, now, miss. I've not got all day to wait on the likes of you. I must get my jacket. And my hat. How long will this take? Sally wrenched her arm from the grip of the copper, the pit in her stomach growing impossibly more painful as she collected her things. I'll send one of my men to alert your mother as to the, situation, miss, the sergeant offered. Trying one last time to fight the unknown fate that waited for her, Sally grasped hold of Mrs. Burns' arm. Please, Mrs. Burns, please. Allow me to speak with Mrs. May. I didn't take her ring. I swear on my father's soul. Please. There's nothing I can do, Sally. Now go with the policemen. The woman's eyes doubted her, Sally could see it. There, Sally. It won't be so bad. They're taking you to Ludlow. It's clean and dry there. The food is not bad or stale. There's a yard, the sergeant told me, for walking and taking the air and sunshine. They're taking me to jail? For how long? Am I to be treated as a common criminal? Now, girl. You have to stay in the Ludlow Street jail while you wait for your trial. Come along. Joe took Sally by the arms with firm hands. They all but pulled her from the safety and warmth of the kitchen, out to the police wagon waiting in the chilly street. Chapter 2. Sally set the letter down on her writing table and covered her face with her hands. At last. It had finally happened. Sally? Is something wrong? Grace Richards, Sally's younger sister by a year, stood at the bedroom door, a look of concern clouding her features. Sally startled. Oh, Grace. No, dear, there's nothing wrong. All is quite well. And it's about to change for the better, as a matter of fact. Yes, change is inevitable. When Mama and Mr. Frost are married, things will be much easier around here. Grace walked into the room and plopped down on the bed. I look forward to it. And I'll be leaving the house as quickly as Mr. Frost moves in. You're leaving the house? What do you mean? Where are you planning to go? Mama won't permit you to go to a boarding house. She won't have to. I'm going to be married. Married? Grace giggled. I thought you were serious, Sally. I am serious. Sally smiled. What do you mean? Who are you going to marry? You've had no suitors since, Grace's chin dropped. While I was wasting away in Ludlow, I began perusing the papers, Grace. All the newspapers in the city. At first. Then one of the female guards gave me some magazines to look at. One, in particular, the Ladies' Home, had an entire section devoted to letters from men looking for wives. What do you mean? That sounds ridiculous. You don't need to write to someone you don't know. There are many wonderful, handsome, and well-to-do gentlemen right here in New York. You sound as if you have no options. I don't have options, Grace. You know that. I must leave here. And it just so happens that a man by the name of Jason Andrews, from Mossy Creek, Nebraska, has written a proposal of marriage to me. We've been corresponding for almost 6 months. Sally handed the letter to her sister and breathed a sigh of relief. At last, she could escape the whispers and snickering of those she passed on the streets. There would be no more eyes that bore into her back as she passed by, no more snubs and unkind words. The opportunity to walk outside her home with her head held high would be hers once again. This Mr. Andrews lives all the way out in Nebraska, you say? Why, you might as well go to China. You don't understand, Grace. It's been almost 2 years since I lost my job. And my reputation. But you've been freed. They caught the real thief. You told me so. That groom they hired and only kept for 2 days. You said he took off not only with Mrs. May's ring but some other valuables as well. I hope they never let him out of jail. Sally shook her head. Despite her fervent denials about stealing the ring, and the confession of the real thief when caught, it seemed that no one but Grace truly believed her. Her own mother seemed to harbor doubts. Even Mrs. Burns had held her in a bad light for the 2 months she had languished in the Ludlow Street jail while she'd awaited trial. In time, the real culprit had been found out and Sally was released. This should have caused her to be reinstated into the sector of society she knew, and life should have gone on as before. Except with jail time and a theft allegation on her shoulder, it seemed not to matter to anyone that she hadn't been guilty. Within 3 weeks of being released from Ludlow and being cleared of all charges, Sally realized that the truth meant nothing to anyone. The damage had been done. Mrs. May never apologized for having suspected Sally and never offered her back her job as governess to the May children. That response from a society matron had been enough to banish Sally from every party, dinner, or theater engagement. No one wanted to have a person with such a tarnished reputation in their presence. Friends came to the Richards home, on West 10th Street, to see Grace. They barely spoke to Sally. She was anathema, and she knew things would either stay as they were or get worse. She lived under a shadow. It makes no matter, Grace. There's nothing here for me in New York. I have no choice but to leave. You know how people are. I have a stigma attached to me. I'm just grateful our neighbors haven't spurned you or Mama. It's bad enough that Mama hasn't treated me the same since everything happened. Sally sighed. That's not true. Mama loves you. The two of you are so alike. That's what causes you to argue. But she is your mother. She loves you. I believe she loves me because I'm her daughter, but she wants to forget that she has a daughter who's been in jail. She's ashamed of me. It doesn't matter that I was unfairly and wrongly accused and imprisoned. No one treats me the same. You're the only one who stood by me through it all, Grace. You're the only one who visited me at Ludlow. Mama gave you notes to bring to me, but the thought of visiting me at a jail mortified her. In Nebraska, with Mr. Andrews, I can start anew. No one will know anything about me, but what I let them know. It will never be common knowledge that I spent time in jail, albeit unfairly accused. But Nebraska is so far away, Sally. It's on the frontier to the far west. I know it is, but making my way there will be easier than staying here. I'll miss you. I feel you're my only friend. However, it's time for me to leave. I can't exist the way I've been living." The tears that had been threatening to spill did so, and Sally reached into her sleeve for a handkerchief. Grace stood and went to her sister. She rubbed circles between Sally's shoulder blades in an effort to comfort her. There, everything will work out. Maybe I can come and visit once you're settled. Would you like that?" Sally looked at Grace with gratitude. "I would love that, Grace, really I would." "Then it's settled. When do you leave?" "Tomorrow." Grace gasped. "Tomorrow?" "I'm sorry, Grace. It has to be. I'll miss you. You can't imagine how much I'll miss you." Grace nodded, with tears already spilling from her eyes. "But I can imagine. Because I'll miss you even more." Chapter 3. Sally's leave-taking left her feeling empty and bereft for most of the journey west. She tried to forget that last look of anguish on her sister's face. She tried to forget that last look of, was it relief? On her mother's face. The entire farewell had been almost more than Sally could bear. But the promise of living without the burden of her past compelled her to move forward. It was over now. She had a brand new beginning waiting for her. A brand new beginning. A brand new beginning. The words flowed through her head, over and over, even when she dozed. Station stop, Omaha City. The conductor walked through the train cars announcing the stop location. Sally stirred and opened her eyes. Individuals were walking through the aisle toward the doors. She looked around. "Excuse me?" The conductor smiled at her. "Yes, miss? This is Omaha City. Anything else you need?" She straightened up in her seat, looking around and smoothing back her hair. "Well, this is it." No. Thank you." The young man touched his cap to her. "Very good, miss." She stood and picked up her small travel bag. Her trunk was in the luggage car. Hopefully, Mr. Andrews would be outside the vehicle waiting for her. Her hand went to her stomach as she made an effort to still her breath. She walked down the aisle, made a right at the door, took one more slow deep breath and stepped off the train into a brand new life. Chapter 4. The sun was bright, causing her to squint. Sally raised her hand to shade her eyes and glanced around. The sky was wide open and seemed to stretch forever. She'd never seen anything like it and fought the feeling that she might be plucked off the earth like a seed picked up by a bird. People moved here and there, carrying suitcases and carpet bags. Wagons, horses, and buggies were parked haphazardly around the station building. There was dust everywhere from the dirt that was kicked up by all the people and vehicles. She didn't know which way to go, but she wanted to get out of the bright sun. Lifting her skirts, she descended the 3 steps to the ground. Where is Mr. Andrews? I see him nowhere. This wasn't at all what Sally had imagined when she'd accepted Mr. Andrews' marriage proposal. Across the way, a pack of mangy dogs fought over a morsel or bone, their growls and yelps echoing in the clear morning air. No one offered to help her, so intent was each individual to get to his or her destination. Well, I suppose I should wait on the station porch. At least there's shade there. She glanced at the baggage car down the tracks, noting that the porters were unloading the bags. She'd claim hers when they were finished unloading. In the meantime, she walked across the short expanse of dirt to the station house, all the while looking around for Mr. Andrews. What will I do if he doesn't come? Her stomach lurched, and her mouth became dry. She knew not a soul here in Omaha City. She began to question if she'd made a mistake. In the distance, something caught her eye. A carriage was moving across the rolling green expanse of land. Oh, please let that be someone to come and get me. Sally began looking around for a hotel in the event that the carriage speeding across the plain had nothing to do with her. She stood, seemingly invisible, and waited for the vehicle that approached. After 5 more minutes, the carriage pulled right up to the station house porch. A surprisingly handsome man with soft brown curls, a cowboy hat, and the work clothes of a farmer hopped down. As he turned toward her, Sally saw it was Mr. Andrews. He's even more handsome than the photograph he sent me. He's so big. The cowboy walked around the back of the carriage and stood on the ground in front of her. Welcome, Miss Richards. I recognize you from your photograph. Jason Andrews at your service. He bowed from the waist, then extended his hand to assist her down from the porch. Thank you. Sally took his proffered hand and a slight thrill passed through her. How chivalrous. I'm terribly sorry to be late. My favorite mare, Joni, foaled this morning. There were some complications, but all has turned out well. I trust you weren't waiting too long. No, just about 10 minutes. Is your home nearby? The farm is 4 miles outside of town. It won't take long to get there. Come. Let's get you settled. I brought the carriage. I thought it would be more comfortable for you. He lifted her up into the buggy as if she were nothing more than a small kitten. She noticed that the top of the carriage was up to shield her from the sun. He's quite thoughtful. I'll retrieve your trunks. Jason smiled. Oh, there's just one. It has my name posted on it. I'll have no trouble finding it among the others then. He walked over to the train and the bags and trunks that were strewn all about on the ground beside it. Sally watched as he looked over the items, then easily lifted her trunk up onto his shoulder. He turned and walked back to the carriage. It took 2 men to put that trunk on the stage. Excitement soared through Sally. It was so nice to have the attention of a courteous man. Pleasant attention. The only notice men in New York had taken of her in the last 2 years had been unkind and embarrassing. I don't want to think about that again. This is a new life. Jason hopped up onto the driver's seat and took the reins. It won't be long now. You can get settled and wash up before dinner. My sister has everything prepared for you. Your bedroom, too. Tomorrow, we'll go to the pastor. I dare say he's expecting us. I spoke to him last week after you sent your reply to my proposal. Your sister is named Belle, right? I don't want to get her name wrong. I mean, we're to be sisters after all. She looked sidelong at Jason, smiling. His eyes were ahead on the direction they were going. Yes, as I wrote to you, she's been keeping house for me since our father passed. Our mother passed when Belle and I were children. I'd been living in the foreman's cottage for years. Now, I lease it out to a nice couple, and Belle and I both are in the main house. You'll like it, there's a veranda all the way around the place. You can see for miles. That sounds lovely. I have to say though that I'm particularly looking forward to meeting your sister. I had to leave my own dear sister, Grace, behind. She's my best friend in the whole world. He glanced at her, grinning. Her stomach jumped, flipped, then settled down. Well, we'll have to keep you real busy, won't we? We don't want you pining and missing your sister too much. And your mother? What of her? Oh, I'll miss her, too. It's just that Grace and I, well, we have a very close bond. There's just a year between us, Mr. Andrews. It's Jason. If we're to be married in 24 hours, please call me Jason. And you did write me about Grace, but it's so much nicer hearing it in your voice with you at my side. I'm glad you're pleased. Sally looked to her right, out over the green hills. You're going to love Belle, Jason continued. You two will get on like a house on fire. She'll help you to not miss your own sister too much. Yes, I'm hoping that's the case. Sally's words trailed off as she saw a large white house in the distance. She turned to Jason with questioning eyes. That's the house over there. Won't be more than a couple of minutes now. He jutted his chin in the direction of the house. They covered the ground between them and the house in just the amount of time Jason had predicted. On the porch stood a very petite red-haired woman with an apron covering the front of her dress. A younger girl with black braids and equally black eyes and a lanky towhead teenaged boy stood slightly behind her. Hello. The lady waved and called, Welcome. Jason pulled up to the porch, jumped down from the carriage and went around to lift Sally out. As his hands encircled her waist, she felt a sudden lightheadedness. She feared her knees would weaken and give out. I must be more exhausted than I thought. Jason took her elbow and led her up the stairs to the porch. Sally, this is my sister, Belle Andrews. Sally extended her hand. Hello, Belle. She was enveloped in a strong hug. Much stronger than she would ever have imagined from one so small. It's so good to have a sister, finally, Belle exclaimed. She stepped back from Sally, her hands on Sally's arms. I'm so pleased you're here. She smiled. We're going to be great friends. She turned to the little black-haired girl. And here we have little Ava. She helps me around the house, don't you, honey? Belle looked fondly at the little girl, then back at Sally. Ava's father owns and operates the mercantile in town. He allows Ava to work here with me. She's young, but honestly, I don't know what we'd do without her. Freddie is our stable boy, the son of one of our farmhands. You'll meet everybody else later. Very well. Hello, Ava. Hello, Freddie. I'm happy to make your acquaintance. Sally smiled at the youngsters. Anna, for her part, curtsied, and Freddie shoved his hands into his pockets and shuffled his foot against the wooden floor of the veranda. I think Sally might enjoy a bath, Belle. Did Ava put the water to boiling like I asked before I left? Oh, dear. I'm so sorry, Sally. In the excitement of your imminent arrival, I forgot all about it. I forgot to tell the girl, Jason, but we can put the water on now. It will only take about an hour to boil it all and get the tub ready. In the meantime, I can show you to your room and you can rest. Or if you'd like a cup of tea. Thank you. I'll rest a little. Sally was disappointed to not have her bath waiting. She wouldn't have been except that Jason had told her everything would be ready, and it had sounded heavenly after her eternal train ride. But no matter, really. Her nerves were a little strained, that was all. The group entered the front door. Sally would soon find out this was not the usual entrance the Andrews used. Inside, the foyer was cool and dim. She could see that to the left was a sunroom and to the right the parlor. The staircase divided the foyer alongside the hall to the kitchen. It was a grand staircase leading to the second story with a graceful curve. She'd never dreamed to see such a fancy house there in Nebraska. They bypassed everything and went back to the kitchen instead. There, Belle opened a narrow door that led to another set of stairs. These were the stairs that everyone used, household help as well as family. Sally followed as her soon-to-be sister-in-law led the way. Here we are. Belle gestured to the upstairs hallway, which was wide and held doors to 5 rooms. There was a third floor as well, which Sally presumed might not be needed. Belle pointed to a heavy dark wood door at the end of the hall. That's my brother's room. Yours is right here, next to his. She led Sally through one of 2 doors at the end of the hall. Oh, it looks fine. Sally took the room in. It was spacious with a big 4-poster bed. There were 4 windows, but the room was still dim. She took note that both bedrooms were in the back of the house. Come this way. Belle took her arm. See, here's a little sitting room for your private use. Indeed, there were 2 doors on the left wall of the room. One led to the sitting room and one led to a small, narrow corridor with a door on the other end. That's the way to Jason's room. Oh, I see. How nice. It suffices. A girl's got to have her privacy now, doesn't she? Belle smiled. Yes, I suppose so. Sally chuckled, then grew serious. A wave of homesickness washed over her. Belle? Yes? Is everything to your liking? Ava and I spent days getting ready for your arrival. What do you need? I don't need anything. Everything is fine. I hope we really can be sisters, Belle. I had to leave my sister Grace behind. I do so look forward to spending time with you and getting to know you. Of course, of course. You're part of the family now. Belle smiled reassuringly. Thank you. Now, here comes your trunk and see, the water pot in the fireplace is already boiling. Take your time, honey. We'll have dinner at 2. That gives you time for your bath and a short nap. You've thought of everything. Thank you again. Now, that's not necessary. Your family. Belle nodded. At least as close to family as is possible without a blood connection or a golden band. I'll leave you now. Just like that, Belle was gone, having closed the door behind her. Sally turned toward the fireplace. Little Ava stood there staring, her eyes unblinking. Well, Ava, I'd like to thank you for preparing my bath. Certainly, I feel like a queen, Sally said pleasantly. While Belle and Sally had been talking, Ava had obviously filled the copper tub in front of the fireplace. She had moved a screen in front of the tub for Sally's privacy and warmth. Miss Belle said I was to get anything you need, miss. She said you're to be my new mistress here at the house, and I should listen to you in all matters. The little girl curtsied after reciting her piece, evoking a gentle smile from Sally. I'm sure you're very fit to help me, Ava. I'm looking forward to getting to know you. Yes'm. Ava took a seat at the writing table by the window. I'm here if you need me. And there's a bell that rings in the kitchen if you need me, and I'm not with you. See, the cord is there by the bed. Oh yes, I see it. Very well. And you're going to stay while I bathe? The girl blinked. Of course, miss. Miss Belle said I was to be your shadow, so if you find yourself in need of anything, I'm here to get it for you. Oh my, that certainly makes me feel like a grand lady. Yes'm. Sally went behind the screen and undressed. She took note of the threadbare rug, which didn't seem to fit with the decor. She climbed into the tub and sank down into the fragrant, hot water up to her neck. Weeks of travel melted from her back and shoulders. She let out a sigh. Miss Belle said I was to help you with whatever you wish, miss. Startled, Sally blanched and opened her eyes. Oh, well, all right. Thank you, Ava. The girl was behind her and she removed the pins from Sally's hair and brushed it out over the edge of the tub. She went to the fireplace and retrieved 2 large pitchers of hot water which she poured into the tub. The pitchers were filled again to use as rinse water for the new Mrs. Hair. Sally soaked a little longer and Ava chose a dress from the trunk for her to wear to dinner. The girl smoothed the wrinkles out the best she could. 2 hours later, Sally felt human again. She donned the deep purple dress with a pattern of tiny gray flowers on it. Her hair had been rubbed dry with a large square of linen. Ava pulled Sally's honey blonde locks up and away from her face into a high bun. When she was finished, a cascade of soft curls flowed down Sally's back to her shoulder blades. Oh, Ava. You're quite the accomplished hairdresser. I love it. My hair looks lovely. Thank you, miss. I study the illustrations in Miss Belle's ladies' magazines when I have the time. I long to be a hairdresser when I grow up. Well, I'm sure you'll succeed. Sally reviewed her reflection in the full-length mirror and did a little twirl. I suppose it's time. She glanced at the clock on the mantel. 10 minutes till 2. She was right on time. She steadied herself with a deep breath. Wish me luck, Ava. Good luck, miss. Thank you, dear. Sally stepped into the spacious upstairs hall. How she longed to walk down the grand staircase. But that would have to wait. She didn't want to make any waves on her first day here. But when she was mistress of the house, Sally intended on using the curving stairs that led down to the foyer. It seemed a shame to only use the other stairway. She went to the closed door of the hidden stairway and opened it. The lamps at the top and the bottom of the stairs had been lit even though it was bright and sunny outside. The enclosed staircase would have been pitch dark if not for the lamps. She descended slowly and when she reached the kitchen, she walked through it to the dining room. She gasped. Everyone was at the table with half-eaten food on their plates. Jason glanced up as she entered the room. I am sorry. I didn't realize I was late. We have dinner at 1 o'clock every afternoon, Sally. Jason used a tone that implied he had informed her of this before. It also implied that he wasn't very satisfied with the fact that she was an hour late. But Sally looked at Belle, who was busy eating a slice of cake. Dessert had already been served. When Belle didn't meet her eyes, Sally wondered if Jason's sister had told her the wrong time for dinner intentionally, but she immediately banished the thought from her mind. Please excuse me. I lost track of the time. It's understandable. You've come a long way. Jason smiled. It seemed he did indeed understand after all. His entire demeanor had changed. He gestured to the seat on his right, the one reserved for a guest of honor. Belle sat at the other end of the table across from Jason, the seat belonging to a hostess. The seating arrangements have to be addressed. Sally sat. Across from her sat Ava and Freddie. Next to her, there was an empty chair. Would you care for roast beef, Sally? Belle asked. Of course, it's cold now but still tasty. Yes, please. Soon Sally's plate was filled with potatoes, beef, peas, and gravy, all cold. She was famished though and ate it all with no complaints. Cake. Belle was smiling at her again. No, thank you, Belle. The food was delicious. I'm filled. Jason stood. I must get back out to the fields. I took the better part of the morning off to come and retrieve you from the train station. Belle will show you around the grounds. Tomorrow morning, the pastor in town is expecting us. That will be at 11 o'clock. Then we will come back here for the wedding luncheon. I hope you don't mind that I've invited some friends of the family, Sally? Belle asked. Does she ever stop smiling? Sally thought she must be tired. There was something about Belle that seemed different. Sally couldn't help but feel that Belle had told her the wrong time for dinner. Why would she do that? You're being silly, Sally. Sounds wonderful, Belle. Sally stood and began clearing her place to take the dirty dishes into the kitchen. What are you doing? No, Sally. We have a kitchen maid, Cookie's daughter. She will see to the dishes. Ava will help her. You'll meet Ida and Cookie later. Come, let me show you your new home. Belle looped her arm through Sally's and led her from the dining room. Chapter 5. You know, sister, you don't have to have the wedding ceremony right away. I know my brother has set tomorrow morning as the time, but don't you think you'd like to rest some more? It was 5 o'clock and Belle was serving tea in the family sitting room. Try one of these cakes, dear. Sally did as she was told. She'd been hoping to see more of Jason, but he'd had to go back to work. Belle was lovely, but Sally was still somewhat suspicious of her. She'd definitely told Sally that dinner was to be at 2. Did she, though? Maybe I'm more tired than I thought. Belle had taken Sally all through the house, even upstairs to the 3rd floor. There was a nursery with 2 bedrooms. These rooms belonged to my brother and me until we were 10. Then we were moved downstairs. I still occupy the room I was given by my parents, but Jason has moved into our father's room. You, dear Sally, have our mother's room. It's lovely, Sally said. Although, the room seemed dingy in contrast to the rest of the house. Not that she minded, really, it just struck her as odd. The antique furniture was beautiful, but there were still old dresses hanging in the wardrobe. They must be the mother's dresses, which gave Sally an odd feeling. I'll ask Ava to remove them. So what do you think? I'm sorry, Belle. What do I think about what? The ceremony, silly. But you are tired. I dare say you'll be in bed right after supper. But that won't be a problem. You're to be mistress of the house. You can do as you wish. Belle sipped her tea. So, you feel your brother and I should wait to be married? I think it would give you time to get to know one another better. Before the, complications of married life set in. Complications? You have a point, Belle. Sally wondered why Belle seemed as if she was trying to say one thing but only succeeded in saying something else. The woman seemed to be a bundle of contradictions. What did she mean by the complications of married life? And how would she know? She'd never been married as far as Sally knew. There was a knock on the door. Come in. Belle looked up expectantly, a smile brightening her rather plain features. The door opened and Jason strode in. Belle, Sally, I've confirmed the time with the pastor for the ceremony tomorrow. Jason dear, I wondered if it might be more prudent for the two of you to wait a little. There's no need to rush things. Poor Sally is still recovering from her journey. You can get to know each other better. We have our entire married lives to get to know each other better, Belle. But Sally would like to wait. Wouldn't you, Sally? Sally's gaze jerked in the direction of Belle. It had been Belle's suggestion that the marriage should wait. Sally had spent the better part of the stage journey preparing herself to marry a strange immediately after getting to Mossy Meadows. She'd read of other women in the position she now found herself in. Sometimes, they got married the minute the woman stepped off the train. Sally wanted to get the ceremony over with. Now Belle was suggesting that it was Sally's idea to wait. Jason looked at Sally waiting for her response. His light brown eyes bore amber flecks. She caught her breath yet again. Why does he affect me so? Well, if you'd like to wait, by all means, we shall, Sally. I want you to feel perfectly comfortable and at home. Not knowing what else to do, Sally uttered a soft thank you to her fiancé. She was suddenly very tired. I notice you have only that one trunk, Sally. Why don't you take the buggy into Mossy Meadows tomorrow and visit the fabric store and the dressmaker? Belle will go with you. Won't you, dear? Jason looked fondly at his sister. Of course. How fun. A shopping excursion. I have some ladies' magazines, Sally. You may borrow them and look through them tonight. All the newest fashions in Paris are in the books. We might live in the middle of nowhere, but we don't have to look like it. She giggled. Sally nodded and felt woozy. Her hand went to her forehead and she stood from her seat, the room swirling around her. Sally? Jason caught her before she hit the floor. What's happened? Jason? Is she ill? Belle hovered nearby, a concerned expression clouding her features. I think my bride might be overwhelmed. Let's get her upstairs and to bed. Maybe it's a good thing we're postponing the ceremony. She'd never be in the shape to go through with it after this. She's burning up. Belle bustled up the stairs ahead of him and lit the lamp on the bedside table. Jason entered and gently lay Sally on the bed. You'd best get her out of that corset, Belle. I'm sending Freddie to town with a note for the pastor. I've also told him to fetch the doctor out here. I'll take care of everything, Jason. He left the room. Belle heard his boots on the back stairs. Well, this fever of Sally's would put the wedding on hold indefinitely. Belle grinned. Ava entered the room, a basin of water in her hands. She set it on the table by the bed and helped Belle to strip Sally and get a nightgown on her. When they'd gotten Sally under the covers, Ava wrung out the rag in the basin and laid the cool cloth across her new mistress's forehead. You sit with her, Ava. The doctor will be here soon. Belle left the room, closing the door behind her. Yes'm, Ava said to the air. Jason headed into the house after leaving his horse, Toby, with Freddie in the stable. He walked up the stairs of the veranda to the side door which opened into a small hall leading to the foyer. The main floor was dark but for the kerosene lamp on the side table in the foyer. The house was quiet. He turned into the kitchen and opened the door to the back stairs. He emerged into the upstairs hall and noticed the door to Sally's bedroom was ajar. Another kerosene lamp inside the room caused flickering shadows to greet his eyes. Drawn toward the light, he tapped on the doorframe. Almost immediately Ava's pale face was looking up at him. Ava. What are you doing up here? Ava was the eldest of 10 children of Clive and Letty Baxter. Clive was the owner and operator of the Baxter Mercantile in Mossy Meadows. Ava, at 11 years of age, had been sent to help at the Wagners when Jason and Belle's father had been ill. After the senior Mr. Wagner's death, Ava, who had become indispensable to Belle, was asked to stay on at the house. She had a little bedroom behind the kitchen near Cookie's quarters. Miss Sally has taken ill, Mr. Wagner. After she fainted, you know. He opened the door a little and gazed into the room. Sally was in the large bed, a cloth resting on her forehead. How is she, Ava? Miss Belle said she had a fever. She told me to keep the head cloth cool. Belle bustled in behind Jason. That's right, Ava. Oh, Jason, thank goodness you're here. The doctor is waiting for you in the little sitting room. He's already seen to Sally. Thank you, Belle. He went down the little hall and into the sitting room. Hello, Jason. The doctor stood and extended his hand. Document. Thank you for coming. What's happened? Miss Richards is exhausted, Jason. And she has a fever. She's just traveled a great distance. She might have found herself sitting next to someone who was ill and didn't know it. What could it be? I'm afraid I don't know. Tomorrow things will be clearer. If the fever breaks during the night, she'll be fine. If it doesn't, I'll need to examine her again. As it is, I'll be leaving now. I thank you, document. Good night. Good night, Jason. I'll let myself out. Thank you. Jason left the sitting room and went back to see Sally. He walked over to the bed. Sally's chest rose up and down, slowly, under the coverlet. Small beads of sweat dotted her upper lip and her face was ghostly pale. He didn't know what to do. She wasn't his wife yet. But she looked so small and frail in the huge bed. He poked his head out into the hall, where Belle sat on a small sofa. Belle, thank you. I'll sit with Sally now. You run along to bed. You must be exhausted. I couldn't let her be alone. You're a good woman. You will be a sister to Sally. You already are acting like one. It's the least I can do. Good night, Jason. I'll see you at breakfast. That is unless there's any change in Sally's condition. If that's the case, please wake me immediately. Belle pulled her shawl closer and headed to her room at the other end of the hall. Jason went to sit next to the bed. He felt helpless, knowing there was nothing he could do. Chapter 6. The next morning Jason awoke with a start. He'd fallen asleep in the chair next to Sally's bed. He reached over to touch her face. At the same time, he saw that the bedclothes were damp. The fever had broken. Jason lifted her from the bed and wrapped her in an extra quilt that was folded on the quilt hanger. He carried her to the little daybed and gently placed her on it. She stirred and then stilled again. He pulled the bell cord to alert Ava to come upstairs. The girl was in the room in what seemed like seconds. Ava, I'd like you to boil water. Miss Sally will need another bath. Stoke up the fire. I don't want the mistress getting chilled. Yes, Mr. Wagner. The girl disappeared as quickly as she'd gotten there. Where am I? Jason looked at Sally. Her eyes flickered open. For a split second, they held a look of fear, then when she recognized Jason, she smiled weakly. Jason knelt down by the bed. Sally. What happened? You fainted yesterday. You had a fever, but I'd say you'll be fine. The fever broke sometime early this morning. Have you been here all night? He smiled. Yes, I suppose I have. Ah, here's Freddie and Ava with water. I've ordered another bath for you. Ava will change the bed while you bathe. Then a fresh nightgown and it's back to bed you go. Oh, I couldn't do that. Do what? Sleep the day away. Oh yes, you can, and that's what you're going to do. Belle strode into the room. You're exhausted is what you are. I suppose I am a bit tired. Now, Jason, you shoo. This lady's getting a bath and then tucked in. Jason grinned and shrugged. I'll see you at dinner, Belle. Sally, I'll stop in to see you as well. Tub's ready, miss. Once again, Sally gave herself over to the ministrations of Ava. The entire scene of yesterday's bath was repeated until it came time for Sally to dress. She was helped into a soft, white cotton nightgown, and her hair was plaited over one shoulder. She was bundled into the freshly changed bed and sound asleep in a matter of minutes. The following day, Sally was still a little tired but dressed to join the others at the table for breakfast. She'd had only broth the previous day, and she was quite hungry. She dove into a plate of scrambled eggs with steak, beans, bread with butter, and coffee. It's good to have you at the table, dear, Belle said. Sally noticed that Belle still occupied the hostess's chair. No matter, after the wedding, things would change. The rest of the day was filled with the trip into town that Jason had proposed the day Sally arrived. Every shop that Belle took her to had a credit account under Jason's name. Belle repeated what her brother had told Sally, get whatever you want. Money was not an object. Sally was having fun. Belle was in a wonderful mood, and it felt to Sally almost as if they were sisters. Before they boarded the buggy to drive home for dinner, they bought presents. A new dress for Ava and a new hat for Freddie. When they got back to the house, Sally went to her room for a quick nap before dinner. She fell asleep but was awakened by a sound she couldn't quite place. It sounded as if someone else was in the room. Sally opened one eye then the other. Standing in front of the chest of drawers, with her back to the bed, was Belle. She appeared to be searching for something. Suddenly Belle stopped her rifling and held perfectly still. Sally closed her eyes again. In a moment, she heard Belle tiptoe out of the room, gently closing the door behind her. She felt me looking at her. What was she doing? What had she been looking for? Sally sat up in the bed, her mind working furiously. There was nothing incriminating among Sally's personal items. This was Nebraska. No one knew her here. Her secret was safe. Chapter 7. After a few weeks, Sally fell into a routine at the big farmhouse. In the morning, she would have breakfast with Jason, Belle, Ava, and Freddie. The rest of the morning was her own. She'd gone riding a few times. Today, she might write to her mother and Grace or go to the kitchen and help Cookie, a plump, happy woman whose husband, Zach, worked on the farm. Dinner was at 1, so whatever she'd been doing since breakfast was ended by noon. Then Sally would change her dress and go to dinner. The afternoons, like the mornings, were her own. There might be tea with Belle. Or Belle might take her visiting. After supper, Sally would go to her room and read for a bit, or she might sit outside on the veranda with the family. It was a lovely, quiet existence. She didn't want for anything. But she was still Sally Richards and not Mrs. Wagner. And she'd come to suspect after a few weeks that maybe Belle didn't really want a sister-in-law after all. Each of the 3 times Sally had tried to discuss the wedding, Belle had taken sick. Sally knew by the 3rd occurrence that it was no coincidence. It seemed Belle was doing her best to sabotage Sally and Jason's marriage. Sally rose from her nap and rang for Ava to come and help her dress for dinner. She wanted to ask Ava about Belle. And how did the girl like working there at the Wagner home? Questions like that, but Sally thought better of it. She was being silly and nosy. She went downstairs to the dining room. Sally. How was your nap, dear sister? Belle smiled. I feel rested, thank you, Belle. Sally looked around. Where's Jason? Oh, he sent word that he's stuck in the barn. Another mare foaling. It's that time of the year. I suppose it is, Sally agreed. She knew nothing about farming or farm life or animals having babies. She was wondering if maybe her journey west had been a mistake. Sally, I have something for you. Belle placed a parcel, wrapped in brown paper, on the table. It's something for the wedding. Why, Belle, you shouldn't have. Sally took the package and opened it. There, folded neatly, was a fabric of gossamer thread, iridescent in the light from the window. Oh, Belle, it's a veil. How lovely. Sally stood and shook out the garment. Delicate seed pearls in a pattern of roses covered it. Instinctively, Sally let it fall over her head and shoulders, evoking oohs and ahs from Ava and Freddie. You shouldn't have, Belle. I wanted to. But I hope you'll forgive me. I had to do a little snooping in your room. I needed to make sure you hadn't already gotten a veil. I looked at your dress when you were out riding the other morning. I wanted the veil to complement it. Oh, it does. And I thought she was being nosy. Here she was doing something nice for me. I know with things having been postponed, it's not been the easiest time for you. But I want you to know you're part of our family now, Sally. Marriage or no. Oh, Belle. Sally went to her and gave her a hug. Thank you so much. Tears filled Sally's eyes. That's enough of that. Let's eat. Belle laughed. The four of them had a lovely meal, and all the while, Sally's feelings bounced back and forth from guilt to embarrassment as she thought about her suspicions of Belle. Jason and Sally were sitting on the veranda. They'd finished supper and were watching the sunset across the valley. They sat in the quiet enjoying the view, the soft air, and the tranquility of the moment. Jason? Sally said, breaking the silence. Yes, Sally. I was thinking I'd like to look for a job in Mossy Meadows. You know, I've always been independent. Yes, we discussed it, as I recall, in our letters. What kind of job do you think you'd like to have? You know, you don't need to work. Oh, I know. But, well, Ava mentioned that her father could use some help at the mercantile. He can't pay much, so he's having trouble finding someone. I wouldn't be doing it for the money, you know. It would be more of a social endeavor. Hasn't Belle introduced you around the valley? She has. She's taken me visiting, and she's invited some ladies here. It's just. I think I know. You're from the city. You're used to much more stimulation than you get from visiting and reading. You want more social interaction. I understand. Yes, that's it. Exactly. Are you amenable to my idea? Of course. Sally, I want you to be as happy as possible. If you want to go into town and work at the mercantile, then so be it. He smiled and took her hand. She felt a peculiar sensation. It had occurred to Sally that she was developing real feelings for the man who would be her husband. I'll take you in to see Mr. Baxter tomorrow. If you don't mind, I'd like to make the trip on my own. I do mind. There are still Indians in parts of this area. Most are friendly, but there's no need to tempt fate, is there? Oh, I had no idea there was a danger. Sally's eyes widened. Let's just say, it's better to be safe than sorry. Here you are. Belle stepped out onto the veranda, carrying a small tray with 3 glasses of lemonade balanced on it. She set the tray on the little table between Sally and Jason and took a seat next to her brother. Sally's getting a job, Belle, Jason mentioned as his sister sat down. You know you don't have to work, don't you, Sally? Yes, I know. I thought it might be nice to, you know, meet some people on my own. I can't rely on you to hold my hand forever, Belle. The 3 of them laughed, but Sally didn't feel that Belle's laughter was authentic. Best of luck to you, dear. I hope you don't think I'm going to shirk my duties here. I'll be sure to help out as I've been doing. Sally took care of her own room, at least when Ava allowed it. And she helped Belle and Ava on Mondays with the laundry, for not only the family but the farm hands as well. She'd even taken to boiling the water for her own baths. Oh no, you don't need to worry about us. Ava and I can keep things up. We were doing it long before you came. I'm not worried, Belle, I just want to reassure you. That's all. I would like to work only 3 days a week, if that's acceptable. Whatever you like, Sally. Why does Belle seem annoyed? Sometimes I feel like no matter what I do, it's the wrong thing. She's so moody. Very well, then. Jason, if you'll excuse me, I am a little tired. Jason looked at the two women as if he'd been lost somewhere in a reverie. Oh yes, that's fine. I'll see you at breakfast. Thank you. Good night. And good night, Belle. Sleep well, Sally. Sally could no longer deny it. She never knew how Belle was going to respond. Just this afternoon Sally had mentally accused Belle of snooping. Belle, inadvertently, had put her at her ease and then acted oddly when Sally said she'd be getting a job. She so wanted to be friends with Belle. And Belle seemed like she wanted to be friends too. Maybe Sally was making too much of it. She reached the top of the back stairs, went into her bedroom and closed the door. The pitcher on the washstand held cool water. Sally poured some into the bowl and gently splashed the liquid across her face. She took her hair down, brushed it, and plaited it. She changed into her nightgown and crawled into the soft feather-down bed. She'd worn herself out with worry. Within minutes she was asleep. The following morning, Sally was up with the sun. She'd sent a note to Mr. Baxter with Ava the day before, and when she woke, the response was on the table next to the bed. Sally tore it open. Mr. Baxter would like to hire her, he wrote. Could she start today? What luck. She thought she'd be discussing the job today, but here she was already hired. There was a knock at the door. Come in. Good morning. Belle walked in with a tray of savory breakfast food. I thought I'd help you get ready for your interview. Great news, Belle. Mr. Baxter has already hired me. Ava left a note from him while I was sleeping. Wonderful. Well, I can still assist you. Sally looked at Belle with a sudden fondness. Thank you, Belle. This was the Belle that Sally had grown to care about in the last 2 months. The happy, easygoing Belle. The Belle that Sally had no misgivings about. I'd like to drive you into town as well. Would that suit you, Sally? It would suit me just fine. You're very sweet, Belle. The women ate and laughed, and then Belle helped Sally to dress for her first day at the mercantile. They ran downstairs and out to the barn to pick up the buggy that Freddie had already hitched up in preparation. In town, Belle drove up to the Baxter mercantile. What time do you finish, dear? In his note, Mr. Baxter said Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays to start. 8 until noon. That's wonderful. You'll be home in time for dinner. Very good. I have some errands and a few calls to make. I'll be right back here at noon. How does that sound? Thank you, Belle. That sounds just fine. Sally gave Belle a quick hug and climbed down from the buggy. Just before she walked into the mercantile, she turned to wave once more to Belle. Belle was looking the other way, waving to someone else. Sally shrugged. It didn't matter. Look at all Belle had done for her this morning. Look at all Belle had done for her in the last 2 months. She walked into the mercantile, feeling better about her future sister than she had in a long while. The little bell over the door jingled when Sally entered the store. Mr. Baxter was toward the back of the room dusting some things high up on the shelf. He looked over his shoulder as she entered. Hello, Mr. Baxter, she said and walked up to the counter smiling. Sally, well, hello there. It's so nice to see you. Let's see, I want to get you started right away. The bolts of fabric by the back, they need sorting and neatening up. Especially the remnant box. The ladies. Well, I'm afraid they rifle through everything, and I have no chance to straighten anything. I'll start there then. Where should I leave my things? She had a shawl, her bonnet, and a small reticule. There are shelves under the counter, dear, over there. Mr. Baxter gestured toward the counter with his chin. Sally walked around behind the counter. In a glass-doored cabinet stood an array of music boxes. She gasped. Oh, how lovely, Mr. Baxter. The music boxes. Where did they come from? The music boxes come all the way from Switzerland. They're not very popular here, in Nebraska, but I'm hoping that some of the ladies will notice them sooner or later. I think they're lovely. My mother loves music boxes. She has one from Germany. It plays 5 different songs. It's beautiful, but these Swiss models are just as nice. How many do you have? The 3 on display and a double of each underneath in the closed portion of the showcase. Sally nodded. I'll try to make sure the customers see them. Now, I better get to work. She put her bag and shawl on a shelf under the cash register and went to the fabric area of the store. She began folding and straightening, and all the while her mind went a mile a minute. Mama's birthday is at the end of August. That's only 5 weeks away. I can buy one of these beautiful music boxes and ship it to her as a surprise. She smiled to herself. She hoped she could get the box on credit, but if she couldn't, she'd ask Jason. He'd lend her the money. The day went by uneventfully. Before Sally knew it, Belle was at the door of the shop to collect her. And how did my sister do on her first day, Mr. Baxter? Mighty well. I like having someone else around. And more ladies will be in tomorrow for fabrics and notions. Sally is quite the charming sales clerk. He smiled with satisfaction. Sally looked down, suddenly shy. Now, Sally, take a compliment, Belle nudged her good-naturedly. Thank you, Mr. Baxter. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Yes, Sally. See you tomorrow. Good day, Belle. Good day, Mr. Baxter. Belle opened the door and held it for Sally. Oh, Belle, you should see the beautiful music boxes Mr. Baxter has at the shop. Have you never noticed them? The ladies were riding back to the farm in the buggy. No, as a matter of fact, I haven't. I believe they might sell better if they were moved into the window. It's July. It seems early, but if they were made more visible, folks would see them and get ideas. They'd put aside a little money, and at Christmas time, they'd be able to buy one. I suppose you're right. How many does he have? 6. 2 of each style. They're lovely. I intend to get one for my mother. You're such a thoughtful girl, Sally. Truly you are. Sally said nothing. She wasn't one for compliments, though Belle paid her many of them. Grace had always pointed out Sally's good points, too. She looked at Belle, who glanced back at her. Is everything all right, Sally? Yes, everything is wonderful. I was just thinking that you and I really are like sisters. Thank you. Let's get home, I'm famished. Belle changed the subject, and they were silent for the rest of the ride. Chapter 8. Another 2 weeks passed, and Sally had fallen into a new daily routine. She enjoyed her time at the shop, but for one thing. It was next door to the county jail, with the courthouse across the road in the city square. Whenever she went by the jailhouse, Sally was reminded of her awful time in New York and her weeks at the Ludlow Street jail. It took a valiant effort on her part to daily banish the uncomfortable memories that remained from that time. As it was, Sally had seen 2 criminals brought in that very morning. She couldn't wait until Belle came around to get her. Belle gave her a ride to the shop every Tuesday and then ran her errands or visited with friends. Then, at noon, she would pick up Sally and drive her home. Sally looked out the window for the 100th time at the clock tower in the courthouse. Why is the morning passing so slowly? At noon, the bell over the door sounded and Sally's future sister-in-law came into the shop. Are you ready to go, Sally? Sally grabbed her things from the shelf under the cash register. She was looking forward to dinner today. She hadn't seen Jason at all the day before. She wanted to discuss their imminent nuptials, and she sensed that Jason was impatient to be wed. In truth, so was she. With all the weeks that had passed, she was beginning to feel like a long-lost cousin or something instead of the bride-to-be. Each day, she became more and more fond of Jason, and she prayed he felt the same toward her. It was time. She had the lovely veil Belle had gifted her, and since she'd had the time, she'd had a gorgeous white linen gown made for the ceremony. The dressmaker had copied the pattern from a Parisian fashion periodical. Sally, herself, altered the wedding dress she'd originally brought with her into a dress for church. "How are you today, dear? Was everything all right at the shop?" Belle asked as the buggy pulled from the side of the road and headed out of town. "Yes, it's nothing." "What do you mean, nothing?" "You look a little tired, dear." "I am. I've been having some nightmares is all. I mean, some sleepless nights off and on." "Nightmares? Oh my, that's just wedding jitters." Belle chuckled. "Maybe. If I was getting married." Sally hadn't been able to figure out why Belle seemed so dead set against the wedding. And Sally had learned that pretty much everything Belle wished, Belle got. And if Belle didn't want her brother's wedding to take place. Not long ago, a tentative date had been set, but the night before Belle had taken very ill with vomiting. She'd sworn it must have been food poisoning of some sort, yet everyone else had been fine. "Actually, it's not wedding jitters. I have something else on my mind, I'm afraid." "Whatever could it be, Sally? Tell me. What's wrong? Can I tell her? Dare I tell her?" Sally wondered if it would be prudent to share her thoughts with Belle. Surely, it would be fine. Sally had been hoping to somehow grow closer to Belle. Wouldn't this be one way to accomplish that? If she truly wanted to strengthen her relationship with her future sister-in-law, sharing a confidence could be most helpful. It's a somewhat sordid story, Belle. But I've been so bothered by it since I began working at the mercantile. But I thought you enjoyed your work." "I do. It's just that, Belle, I know I may speak to you frankly." Belle leaned closer. "Of course, you can tell me anything, dear Sally. You know you can." "Well, in New York I worked as a governess for a very wealthy family. And I was let go from that job due to some rather unsavory events." "My goodness. Whatever were these events?" Belle felt the same lead weight in her stomach just retelling it. She would never forget the horror of being accused of something she didn't do. And no matter how much she thought the memories were gone, or a thing of the past, they kept rearing up in her mind. A piece of jewelry, a sapphire ring, went missing from the mistress's bedroom. Belle gasped. "A thief?" "Why, yes. But before they found the real culprit, I was suspected." "You?" "I don't believe it. Trust me, I didn't believe it myself until I found myself imprisoned and waiting for trial." "Imprisoned? Oh my. That simply can't be true." Belle's eyes were huge. "What else happened?" "I was in jail for 2 months. As it turned out, a new groom had been hired in the stables. The man was in that capacity for 2 days and then let go. He put a horse away without grooming him. Needless to say, the master was furious and sent the man packing. And he never came under suspicion? Not at first. I had spent time in the mistress's bedroom with the children the night the ring went missing. Oh, my poor dear. How frightful. Oh my. How absolutely awful for you." Belle nodded with understanding. "But then, you say, they got the true culprit?" "Yes, but my reputation was ruined. Mrs. May, the mistress at the house, never apologized to me or offered me to have my job back. My sister Grace was my only staunch ally. How awful. You poor dear. Does my brother know about this?" Sally hesitated for a moment. "No, he doesn't. I didn't think it would matter to him. I mean, I didn't take the ring. I thought when I came here that I'd forget all about the ordeal. But 3 times a week I see the county jail and fearsome memories have been coming up in my mind. I'm so sorry, Sally. This is all just too much for you. Maybe you should leave your job. You don't have to work. You've met enough ladies now that you can have them to lunch or for a cup of tea." "Yes, you might have a point. I'll think about it, but I do like my job." Maybe I should stay away from the windows. That way, I won't see convicts being brought in. Oh, look, Jason is at the house already. I'm so glad. I want to talk to him about something. What do you want to speak to him about, Sally? Our wedding. I've been here for over 2 months. It's time. I know I'm ready. I'm sure about it all. I'm ready to commit my life to being with your brother. How wonderful. Belle drove the buggy around to the side of the house. She and Sally hopped down, and Freddie took the reins. Jason, Sally called as the 2 women stepped up to the porch. She was glad he would be with them for dinner that day. Jason's breath left him as he gazed at Sally. He found her to be very beautiful, and he wished he had more time to spend with her. If they were married, they could be alone together. But until then, they must always be in the company of others. Jason wanted Sally. He'd been thinking about it a lot lately, and he'd decided that he wanted to have the ceremony on Saturday. Being it was Wednesday, that gave the household only 2 days to prepare for the festivities. But no matter. Everyone on the farm had been ready for a last-minute ceremony for weeks. Jason was so pleased that Belle and Sally got on just the way he'd hoped they would. Yes, he'd been ready to marry Sally the day after she'd arrived. But Belle had been right. It had been a good idea for him and Sally to take a little time to become better acquainted. Now, Jason and Sally knew each other well enough to be wed. To be husband and wife. He waited as the women ascended to the veranda and offered his arm to Sally. The 3 were just entering the house when Belle gasped. Oh, no. What is it, Belle? Jason asked, immediately concerned. His sister was the closest person in the world to him. Any distress of hers caused distress for him. Tell us, Belle. A frown was fixed on Sally's countenance. Oh, it's nothing, really. I left my fan at Mrs. Dempsey's house. I fear I must go back and get it now, or I may never see it again. Belle looked flustered. I'll have Freddie drive me back. You 2 go ahead and have dinner. You absolutely must get it today? Sally asked. As I said, I'm afraid so. I adore Mrs. Dempsey. However, she does have a habit of appropriating items that may have been left behind in her sitting room. It's just as well. I have something I'd like to discuss with Sally, Jason said, smiling at her. Oh. You do? Well, I won't keep you from it any longer, dear brother, Belle said somewhat abruptly and left the room without another word. Jason? You want to speak to me about something? Yes. He guided her into the dining room. Ava wasn't at the table. It appeared that Jason would have ample time and privacy to broach his topic. He didn't expect any contradictions. In fact, he hoped that Sally would welcome his decision. Once they were seated, Cookie brought the dishes, hot, to the table one by one. When she was through, she asked if anything else would be needed. No, thank you, Cookie. That will be all. See that we aren't disturbed. The woman looked from one to the other, then nodded and left the room muttering to herself at how the situation was untoward. I believe Cookie finds me a naughty woman to be alone with my fiancé behind closed doors, Sally whispered gleefully. No doubt, but that won't be the case for much longer. 2 days to be exact. I'm sorry. I don't understand, Jason. I'd like for us to be married on Saturday. I don't suppose there's anything else to say except that I feel I know you. And I feel that you know me, as well. Sally's eyes glistened. Oh, Jason. Of course, Saturday is perfectly acceptable. Wonderful, actually. I'm so happy that you've chosen a date. He couldn't help but give silent thanks for the blessing that was Sally. He felt he loved everything about her. He'd seen her in many different lights by then. She had no idea that he'd been scrutinizing her every day, not negatively, but with deep appreciation. She was not only physically quite striking, but she was also kind and caring, honest, and loyal. He found no good quality lacking in her. He knew she would make a good wife to him and a good mother to the children they would have someday. You make me very happy, Sally. I find myself quite eager for Saturday. She blushed. Me, too, Jason. Chapter 9. The following morning, Freddie gave Sally a ride into town. He had instructions to see the blacksmith. Jason wanted him to learn how to shoe horses. So every Thursday he had a lesson with Joe, the town's farrier. Thank you, Freddie. I'll be back for you at noon, miss. Thank you. Mind what Mr. Joe tells you, now. I will, Miss Sally. The boy snapped the reins and turned the buggy around to head to the other end of the main road. Sally entered the Baxter Mercantile with the bell, as usual, announcing her arrival. Good morning, Mr. Baxter. She walked behind the counter to place her shawl and bonnet where she usually put them, along with her bag, under the counter only to find her way blocked by her employer. I'm sorry. Not today, Sally. The bell over the door sounded again before she could respond. The sheriff walked in. Hello, Sheriff, Sally said amicably enough. Hello, Sally. Clive. Why does he avoid my eyes? Something's wrong. Might as well get on with it, Clive. Get on with it? Get on with what, Sheriff? Mr. Baxter? Sally, I feel awful uncomfortable telling you this. Are you, by any chance? Let me begin again. Is there anything you'd like to tell me, Sally? Something you'd like to get off your chest, perhaps? Mr. Baxter asked. Let me put it this way, Sheriff Baker added, you'll feel much better after you come clean, little lady. Little lady? Pardon my ignorance, but I have no idea what you two are talking about. The music boxes, Sally. The music boxes? The ones over there? She pointed to the showcase. I don't understand. One's missing. I was in early this morning to do my inventory. I always do inventory on the third Thursday of every month. Ain't that right, Sheriff? Yep. Everyone in Mossy Meadows knows when you do your inventory, Sheriff Baker agreed. Again, Mr. Baxter. Sheriff Baker. I don't know what you're talking about. Sheriff? Clive said. The sheriff moved his gaze from Sally to Mr. Baxter. He nodded at the other man and turned his attention again to Sally. I'm afraid you are the chief suspect, Sally. Chief suspect? What do you mean? Mr. Baxter, you think I took the missing music box? Sally felt the air leave her lungs. I've been over it 100 times in my head, Sally. I can find no other explanation. 1 month ago, all 6 boxes were here. You began work the next week. No one else goes behind the counter over there. I rarely go there myself. Sally's hand went to her forehead. No. This can't be happening again. I'm sure you're a wonderful girl, Sally. I thought so from the first time I met you. Maybe you've been under too much stress. You know, with the separation from your family in New York. But Mr. Baxter, I didn't take the music box. I can't take any chances. You must understand. This business is my livelihood. Sally's eyes filled with tears, but she forced herself to remain calm. Mr. Baxter, you can't possibly believe. I ain't sure what I believe, Sally. Not anymore. All I know is something from my shop is missing. You are the only other person here in the capacity of clerk. So, am I to be arrested? No. I asked Sheriff Baker to be here as a witness. That's all. Now, here is your pay for the last 2 days. I won't be needing your assistance any longer. I am sorry, Sally. He handed the envelope to her. Bile rose in her throat, and she thought she might choke. She managed to eke out, I understand. She dropped the envelope on the counter and turned, nearly running from the shop. She hurried past the jail and in the direction of the blacksmith shop. Freddie, come with me. You must take me home this instant. The boy's in the middle of his lesson, Mrs., the blacksmith informed her. I'm sorry, Joe. I must go home. Now. The blacksmith nodded to Freddie. Within minutes, Sally was being whisked across the plain to the farm. When she arrived, Sally ran into the house and up to her bedroom, locking the door behind her. How could this have happened? And twice? It couldn't be true. It just couldn't. What was wrong with her that people kept thinking the worst of her? Was her nightmare really repeating itself? The following day, Sally woke up thirsty with a growling stomach. She couldn't remember when she'd last eaten. She buried her head down in the pillows and remembered what had happened the day before. She vaguely recalled hearing Ava, then Belle, and then Jason at the door. But she'd ignored them and forced herself to keep still. She heard horses approaching outside. Who would be coming to the farm so early? She lifted her head to look at the clock on the mantel. It was almost 11 o'clock. It wasn't early at all. Well, I suppose I should get dressed and go down to dinner. And tell everyone I'll be leaving here tomorrow. There were boots on the stairs and suddenly a sharp rapping at the door that made Sally jump. She could hear Belle saying no, no. And muffled conversation. Sally wanted to sink into the down of the bed and disappear. Now there was gentle tapping on the door. Sally. Open the door. This has got to be a misunderstanding. Come on now. It was Jason. Her heart leapt in her throat at the sound of his voice. She stood and wrapped a robe about her and opened the door. Please, come in. We can speak in my sitting room. Ava preceded Jason with a tray upon which there was bread, cheese, and coffee. They were followed by Mr. Baxter, Sheriff Baker, a young deputy, and Belle. Once everyone was seated and Ava had left, the sheriff lost no time in coming to the point. Sally, we were made privy to some information about you. Some things having to do with your former life. I don't believe your fiancé or his sister are aware that you have been in jail in the past. Sally's eyes went to Belle's. Belle was studying her fingernails as her hands rested in her lap. It was a mistake. Did the source of your information tell you that? Just as this must be some kind of mistake, Jason insisted. He had remained standing, and now walked the few steps to stand behind Sally's chair. I've brought the deputy to make a search of your rooms if you're amenable, Sally. That way we can prove once and for all if something happened. You mean you can prove my fiancé's innocence, Sheriff? Jason looked sternly at the man. Sally lifted her chin. I have nothing to hide. Please search. The deputy, overseen by the sheriff, began in the bedroom. Sally, Belle, and Jason waited, silently, in the sitting room. 10 minutes went by, then 15. Sally thought that a bird calling a mile away would be heard, the three of them were so quiet. Well, the sheriff's voice broke the silence, now we'll look in here. Do you care to wait in the other room, Sally? No. As I said, I have nothing to hide. The search began. After a few minutes, a low whistle emitted from the lips of the deputy. Sheriff? You might want to see this. The sheriff stepped over to where the deputy was looking under the vanity table. In the area where the seat went, all the way against the wall, nearly invisible even when the seat was moved aside, there was something set on the floor. Sheriff Baker stooped down and reached into the recess. When his arm emerged, his hand held onto a finely made wooden box. A music box. Sally stood, gasping. No. That cannot be. You put it there. You. Is this the box, Clive? It is. No, it's not possible. Sally was nearly hysterical. It was happening again. She was going to jail. She was ruined. Again. Sheriff, there's got to be some explanation. Jason stepped forward as if to shield Sally. The only explanation I need at this time is an explanation of how Mr. Sanford wants to address this situation. Please, I didn't take the box, Mr. Baxter. I swear on my sainted Father in heaven. Clive, let me buy the music box from you. That will take care of it, no? Jason spoke. I'm afraid it will take care of nothing, Jason. I heard about your fiancé's past from New York. I found out from the law there that she'd been in prison. That's why the sheriff and I are here. But what happened in New York was all a big mistake. The real culprit was found. Sally looked from the sheriff to Jason. I'm telling the truth. Jason put his arm around her shoulders and pulled her close. She wanted to turn her face and bury it in his chest, his strong arms protectively holding her. But she stood still, her chin held high, her lip trembling. I was a fool to trust Belle. Her eyes went wide. Was she blaming Belle for this? Would Belle have been so cruel? I don't want any more trouble than there already is. I'll consider it settled if you buy the music box, Jason. And, of course, I expect you won't come into the store again, Sally. Am I supposed to be thanking you, Mr. Baxter? Pardon me, my dear girl, but you stole from me. I could press charges. But I've merely asked you to stay away from my store. And my daughter. I wouldn't want Ava picking up any, bad habits, so to speak. Surely, you're very generous, Clive. But again, I must stress that there has got to be some mistake, Jason repeated himself, but to no avail. When you can prove to me how that music box came to be in this room without your fiancé's involvement, then I will agree that this is a mistake. Until that time, my wishes remain the same. Good day. Mr. Baxter, Sheriff Baker, and the deputy stomped back down the back stairs the way they'd come. Come, Jason. It's unseemly for you to be here in Sally's room alone with her. I have things to attend to, Belle spoke quietly but firmly. Go on ahead, Belle. But, Jason, it's what convention dictates. You cannot be alone with her. Not here. I don't care what convention dictates, Belle. Go and do what needs doing. But. You heard me, Belle. Belle left the room. Chapter 10. It was 6 o'clock in the morning when Sally arrived in Omaha City. She'd been able to squeeze onto the stagecoach at the last minute, a thick shawl covering her identity. She didn't want anyone to know where she'd gone. After arriving, she saw a boarding house near the stagecoach station. She went in, spoke to the proprietor, and paid for 2 nights. The tiny room had a narrow bed, a washstand, and 1 window. Without undressing, Sally fell on the bed. She could make a plan later. For now, she needed sleep. Jason was inconsolable. Where had Sally gone? No matter how his thoughts twirled, he kept coming back to the idea that Sally would have taken the stage. But where? Back to Omaha City? Or did she go further west? He was sure she wouldn't try to make it back to New York. A knock sounded on the study door. Jason? Jason shook his head, trying to clear his mind. Yes? Belle? Come in. Jason, you can't keep to yourself like this. What? What did you say? I said, it's been a whole day, and you haven't left your room. You can't go on like this. Sally is gone, and there's nothing to be done about it. You're wrong, Belle. There is something to be done about it. Since she hasn't returned, I'm making a plan. I will search for her. She can't have gone far. She didn't take anything in the way of money with her but what she made at the mercantile. Where will you go? I'll go all the way to Omaha City if I have to. He stood up, feeling much better to have settled on a plan. He went to pack a saddlebag. I'm heading into town to see if I can learn anything new. It's too late to head out tonight, but I'll be leaving first thing tomorrow. Now that he'd made up his mind, nothing would stop him. He would find Sally and he'd bring her home. Belle watched from the upstairs hall as Jason rode off in the direction of town. What had she done? She hadn't meant for it all to get so out of hand. But once she'd taken the music box, there was no turning back. The worst part was she was sure Sally knew what she'd done. Belle regretted it, but she had no notion on how to fix it. She'd been vicious, and Sally had been nothing but kind and sweet since she'd arrived. She'd been patient with Belle's attempts to try and drive Jason away from her. How would Belle ever be able to tell Jason that she'd not only set Sally up, but that she'd betrayed Sally's confidence? How would she be able to tell him she'd been afraid to lose him? It all seemed ridiculous and sad now. She'd been afraid no one would need her once Sally became the mistress of the house. Jason might never forgive her. And she was sure Sally never would. And she wouldn't blame either of them. Late that evening, Belle went to the sitting room to wait for Jason's return. She'd rehearsed 100 different versions of the story by the time she heard him coming in. It was almost 10 o'clock, and the sun had left the sky a few hours ago. Belle knew she had to tell Jason her part in the story. He would be angry, she was sure of that. He might even be hurt, but Belle was certain she would lose him forever if she kept her secret. Somehow, he would find out, and their relationship would sour from the inside out. Belle? Jason strode angrily into the sitting room. I'm glad you're still awake. Yes, I have to tell you some things, Jason. I was told by more than one individual in town that you are the source of the rumors that Sally was in jail in New York. Care to elaborate? His expression was hard, and Belle cringed. Oh, Jason. I am so very sorry. I was afraid of losing you. You're my only family. I didn't realize the severity of what I was doing when I did it. I can offer no excuse for my behavior. So, it was you who stole the music box? She burst into tears. Yes. It was me. I hid it in Sally's sitting room. It was all me. I don't know how to make it right. He stared at her, his mouth hanging open. I didn't want to believe it. How could you? He was nearly yelling at her now, and she could do nothing but weep even harder. I am sorry, she cried again. I never meant it. You never meant it? Sure seems like you meant it, Belle. What were you thinking? How could you? Sally has been nothing but nice to you. Jason paced back and forth in front of her. She'd never seen him so angry. I'll help you find her. I will. I'll do anything. He gave her a scathing look. You're a little late, aren't you? Please, Jason. I'm sorry. Tomorrow morning I'm heading to Omaha City. I'm going to stop at every little enclave on the way. The stage driver who does the run to Omaha City thinks he saw Sally. So, I'll start there. She can't have gone too far. She'll have to stop somewhere and work. Let me come with you, Belle begged, still weeping. Jason shook his head. No. No, Belle. He walked out into the hall and used the grand front staircase to walk heavily up to the second floor. Chapter 11. Jason rode into Omaha City. After questioning a few residents, he located the laundry where he heard the owner had been advertising for help. He stopped in front of the building and tied Joni to the hitching post. He walked into the building, but since no one was inside, he went through to the yard where he saw huge steaming vats. And then he spotted her. He would recognize her graceful form anywhere. She stood, moving a large paddle around in one of the vats. Her arm went up to wipe sweat from her brow, and she stopped mid-movement. Slowly she lowered her arm and looked squarely at him. Sally? He stepped toward her. Jason. His throat tightened. Sally. Come home. Please. She shook her head and visibly swallowed, a shadow falling over her face. No, Jason. You must forget about me. I've come to realize that I'm trouble. Everywhere I go, it seems. And I refuse to ruin your life. Jason took a step closer. I don't know exactly what happened in New York. It sounds like it was a real nightmare for you. But Belle has confessed to setting you up in Mossy Meadows. His shame for his sister was so great, he could hardly get the words out. Sally placed her hand on the wall of the house to steady herself. I'd hoped I was wrong. Does she hate me that much? No. No. She doesn't. She's sorry. She realizes how wrong she was. About everything. Please, could you ever find it in your heart to forgive her? Please, Sally. Sally gazed at him, and he saw the tears in her eyes. I wanted to be sisters with her, she said softly, blinking. I was so wrong. She took a deep breath. I'll forgive her. I know only too well what not forgiving and resentment does to a person. I'll forgive her, but I won't go back. Please, Sally, get your things. I'll take you home. No. I don't understand. If you can forgive her. I can't go back with you. I won't. But why? What do you mean? I'll forgive Belle because I want to be a person who forgives. But I've lived with my past a long time, Jason. If I go back to Mossy Meadows, then your sister's life will be ruined because the truth will inevitably come out. And I won't spend my life protecting her guilt. I can't live a lie. I can't. But that doesn't make sense, Sally. You wouldn't have to live a lie. You wouldn't. She visibly stiffened. But I would. And there will be suspicion. I never lied about anything, Jason. I didn't tell you about the maze and the ring and the Ludlow jail, but I didn't lie. He rubbed a thin layer of sweat from his upper lip. I won't give up this easily. You have no choice. I'll be back tomorrow. Best pack your things and be ready, he said. He took her hand and pulled her to him, wrapping his arms around her. I won't let you go, he whispered into her hair. At first, she resisted his embrace, and then he felt her shake, and he knew she was weeping. By the time Jason got home the next day, it was after dark. Once again, Belle was in the sitting room waiting for him. She stood when he walked in, and he saw that Sheriff Baker and Mr. Baxter were also present. Did you find Sally? Belle asked earnestly. I did. She won't come home because she won't live a lie, Belle. And she doesn't want folks to know what you did. Ahem. Sheriff Baker cleared his throat. Jason, I think you're going to want to hear this. That's why Clive and I are here. What is it, Sheriff? Jason was tired, and he didn't know if he could take any more bad news. Your sister has confessed. The three of us, Sanford, Belle and I owe Sally and you an apology. Belle has even offered to be punished for the theft. But since you paid for the music box, and Belle has vowed to tell our townspeople what she did, Clive is more than satisfied. Isn't that right, Clive? Mr. Baxter nodded. That's right. And I'd like to offer Sally her job back if she would consider it. Jason looked at Belle. You confessed? I did. But you got what you wanted. Sally is gone. Belle sucked in her breath. I want her back. I was mistaken. Jason looked at her for a long moment before turning back to the sheriff. I'm heading back to Omaha City tomorrow. I'll let Sally know these developments. I intend to bring her home. Very good. Then we'll be on our way. Come on, Clive. Good night, Sheriff. Clive. The men saw themselves out and Jason turned to Belle. You will come with me tomorrow, Belle. The only way Sally will come back is if you tell her what you've just told me. Belle's eyes widened. I couldn't. She'll hate me. She won't hate you. Jason sighed. Sally has a kind heart. Kinder than you know. You were brave enough to tell the sheriff and Mr. Baxter the truth. You must tell Sally the truth as well. I insist on it. Belle nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. All right. I'll come. Jason stared at his sister for a long while, wondering if he could ever be as forgiving as Sally was. The next day, Jason and Belle took the buggy to Omaha City. They went to the laundry at the end of the road, but Sally wasn't there. Oh no, Jason. Do you think she went to a different city? Where would she go? She had a room at the boarding house by the stage station. Hurry. Maybe by some miracle, she's still there. They moved as fast as they could to the other end of the city. The imposing boarding house stood 3 stories high. Jason nearly flew up the steps and through the door. Excuse me, young man. What's the rush? A formidable-looking matron stepped out of the parlor. She stopped him before he could take the stairs 2 at a time. Pardon me, ma'am, but I'm looking for my fiancée, Sally Richards. The proprietress studied him with narrowed eyes. Then she turned her gaze to Belle. No one here by that name, she said. Maybe she gave a false name, Jason, Belle suggested. She came here 5 days ago. She's medium height, honey blonde hair and green eyes. Surely, you know her. Green eyes you say? Why yes. You don't see many true green eyes. They're usually hazel. But clear green, you just don't see that too often. Yes, I know the woman. Room 14. 3rd floor. She told me yesterday that last night was to be her final stay. Thank you. Jason bolted up the stairs, followed closely by Belle. At room 14, Jason knocked. There was no answer. He knocked again. Thank you, Mrs. Reagan. I won't be needing towels. I'll strip the bed before I leave, Sally's voice came through the door. Jason knocked again. Mrs. Reagan, the door swung open. Sally's words trailed off. Sally, I've come to take you home. Jason, she whispered, shaking her head. I have no home. Everywhere I go, I'm accused, misrepresented. I'm leaving for California. That should be far enough away that my past can't chase me down. Belle stepped forward. Sally, please let us in. I must say something to you. I don't expect that you'll ever forgive me, but just hear me out. Please. Sally looked surprised to see Belle, but she sighed heavily and stepped aside, gesturing both brother and sister into the room. Make this quick. I expect to be on the next stage in an hour. Jason and Belle sat on the little settee that was near the window. Sally took the chair. She folded her hands in her lap and looked none too pleased to be with them. Belle looked at Jason. He nodded. Sally, I took the music box from Baxter's. I hid it in your sitting room. And I told folks in Mossy Meadows about what happened to you in New York. Sally's expression tightened. I know. Jason told me. It was childish, but the simple fact of the matter is, Sally, I was jealous. Not of your looks or your clothes or your sense of adventure, but of your hold on my brother's heart. I saw it on the very first day I met you. My brother was already in love with you, and I was going to lose him forever. And Sally, he's all I have in the world. Belle took a deep breath and continued. But then I realized after you'd left, that I'd grown to love you, too. As a sister. I can't, believe all the trouble I've caused. Very well. Will that be all? Sally stood. As I said, I have much to do, and I want to be on the next stage. No. That's not all. Belle looked again at Jason for support. Go on, then. I want you to come home, Sally. I want Mossy Meadows to be your home now. Ava, Cookie, Zach, Freddie, everyone misses you. But no one misses you as much as my brother, Sally. Jason needs you. He loves you very much. And I will leave the house. Move out. I've caused nothing but trouble. I'll leave. Sally's eyes welled up, the tears threatening to spill at any second. She looked at Jason. He stood and opened his arms. Sally, he whispered, praying that she could hear the love in his voice. Oh, Jason. She ran into his waiting embrace, and he squeezed her tightly. Her tears began to flow. Belle stood, and Sally pulled away from Jason to look at her. "Belle," Sally said quietly, "you don't have to leave." Belle brushed aside her tears. "But I do. I want to leave. I've caused so much trouble." "Yes, you have. That's true." Sally looked into her eyes. "But where will you go? What will you do?" Jason put his arm around Sally. "I have an idea," he said and gazed at his sister. "I could build a small cottage on the property. You can move out of the big house and live there. And then, in time, well..." Belle burst into tears. I'd like that," she sputtered. Sally looked at Jason with deep admiration. She turned to Belle again. "And you'd only come to the big house when invited. Right?" Belle bit her bottom lip and nodded. Then she looked at her brother. "Will you ever forgive me, Jason?" He sighed heavily. "In time. We'll see." "In time," Sally echoed. She drew in a deep breath. "And maybe in time, well, maybe we can become sisters after all." Belle sniffled. "I want to try. Let's go home." Jason embraced Sally again while Belle collected Sally's things that were strewn across the bed. "I've put all your items into the carpet bag, Sally," Belle said. "Thank you." "I am sorry," she said again. Jason squeezed Sally tightly to his side and then stiffened. "If you ever do anything else like this again, Belle, I'm sorry, but it will be over." Belle nodded, lowering her eyes. The ride back to Mossy Meadows seemed longer to Sally than the first time she'd ridden on it. But it had all been brand new then. And Sally had been so nervous around Jason that she hadn't known what to say or even how to act. Now, she was going home, and she couldn't wait to get there. When they arrived in town, Jason headed straight for the jail. Sally tensed and panic flooded her. "What are you doing, Jason?" He gave her a tender smile. "Trust me, Sally. We just need to stop for a quick minute." The sheriff emerged from his office at the jailhouse. "Ah, Sally," he said. "You've come back. I owe you an apology. I'm sorry I didn't believe you." Sally swallowed hard. "Say no more, Sheriff. I am just glad the ordeal is over." Clive came out of his store and joined them. "Good day, Sally. I want to give you back your job if you'd like to have it." "Thank you, Mr. Baxter," Sally said, "but I don't think so. I want to forget that this misunderstanding ever happened." "Do you think we can never mention it again?" The men smiled, and Jason snapped the reins and the buggy got underway once again, this time heading straight for home. As they crossed the plain toward the farm, Sally relaxed. It looked as if the future would work out for her and Jason after all. Even Belle, she supposed. They got to the house and Jason jumped down. Belle got out of the buggy and went directly inside. Jason lifted Sally down and she felt much the same as she had the first day she'd come to Mossy Meadow. With Jason's hands encircling her waist, she floated to the ground. She looked up at him, their faces so close she could feel the slight fan of his breath on her face. "Thank you for bringing me home, Jason." "Thank you for coming home, Sally." They gazed into one another's eyes for a long moment. All else around them faded into nothing. Then Jason offered her his arm, and together, they went inside the house. The end. Thank you for listening to this heartwarming story by Susannah Calloway. You can be assured that all her books are clean and wholesome. To find other romances by Susannah Calloway, as well as the other authors at Tika House Publishing, visit www.tikahousepublishing.com. Remember to hit like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next Susannah Calloway Western romance.